ready, set, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our studio. We're down here at Miami and Sofia, somewhere in between. Probably like this is happening underneath the ocean cables. I am still amazed. How is it possible, Yana, that what's happening right now is traveling with the speed of light through cables underneath these continents, going back and forth?
I don't know. I actually was thinking about it recently and I thought about it and I thought how crazy it would have sounded to somebody even 8 years ago, not to mention 100 years ago. Complete sci-fi that you can be tens of thousands of kilometers or no, 10 plus thousands of kilometers away from somebody and you can talk together as if you're in the same room, you can see each other, not only but you can get work done together. You
That's
can
true.
collaborate across cultures, languages, time zones, physical distance, and get things done together. I
And
think
also
this is very, 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 very
connect
revolutionary.
connect. I think this is like getting into one of these a little bit esoteric topics you and I have been pondering a lot about. I really believe there is like this kind of invisible exchange of energy, communication, whatever, however you want to call it, between us people. And I think it was like Freud or one of these big thinkers that was talking about this phenomenon of synchronicity, kind of like serendipity, like where you tune your mind to something and then things start suddenly like to happen and appear and people talk the right things. And
Yeah.
I feel like technology, this kind of technology, it feeds into this as well, even though it's not at the same level as when you're physically in the same place, but it kind of like helps tune up the mind for it.
What do you think is gonna happen when we have the metaverse and you can essentially have a hologram of your closest friends or business partner or whoever it is right there next to you? Or maybe it's not a hologram, maybe it's just you're entering that digital duplicate of shared reality, digital workspace, and you bought a replica of your real selves. It can mimic the facial expressions, it can mimic our articulation and gestures. Essentially, we can have that almost together experience across thousands of kilometers distance.
There are certain things that I love technology about, and there are other things that I don't want technology to meddle with. And this is one of them. I feel that there is just certain, you can call it even like a moral threshold that I feel I don't want technology like to overstep. And the metaverse especially is like one of these things, because at the end of the day, do I really want to have a corporation being able like to track every single expression, reaction, word, intonation, and to understand probably like my subconscious patterns better than myself in all my interactions with all the people in my life? Personally, for me, no. Other people, I'm sure that they will be happy to have that. So this is where I draw the line for me. And I'm very grateful for what technology gives us in our life. I feel like this is enough what we're having right now, but I would always prefer like a real life interaction over, just putting myself in some kind of a weird virtual reality.
I hear what you're saying, yet I really feel that it will be a gradual change and gradual improvement of the current setup that will lure us into that new reality. Because right now, you and me are sitting and looking at this screen, and I'm seeing roughly 35% of the screen being myself, 35% of the screen being you, and then the rest of the screen is populated with all kinds of buttons and settings and God knows whatnot. And I feel like that experience will drastically improve in the new collaborative systems, and it will improve incrementally with like the cameras are gonna get better, we're gonna look and feel more realistic. If we had the you've tried the glasses yourself,
I did.
where it
Yeah.
feels like maybe there would be a shared environment, shared workspace that we can enter, and I can turn even my head around and see parts of you that essentially is I'm not just seeing 30% of you, but I'm seeing the full you. Do you think we will really
But
say
did you know
no to
that
that better
people
collaborative experience?
people spend 80% of the time in calls looking at their own portrait. Did you know that?
I did not, but
Oh, I
I
just made
could
it up
have
anyways.
guessed it. I could have guessed it because I
I made
think
it
it's
up.
a,
I made it up.
you made it up, but it's
I made it up.
unbelievable. You know, you're
Yeah.
getting as close as ChatGPT to sharing
Right?
fake data.
No, I find myself like looking at myself oftentimes, but this is probably my own fault. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like if it's offering like something that's better quality and it's more accessible, of course, like it's interesting to try these things. And I feel sure technology incrementally improves. I mean, before that we had the telegram, right? That got into the phone, and later on, like we get to the place where we are right now with the video communication. You're telling me to look into the camera. Okay, Yana, I'll look into the camera. Thank you. I'm still just very wary about corporations creating like these environments where they have an absolute control. And I feel it really sort of like threatens. I don't know how to put it. Just don't have a good feeling about it.
I
Not
hear
with the
what you're
track
saying.
record
So it sounds
of
like
these
you
companies.
have privacy concerns.
It's not even a privacy concern. It's just like, do I really want to feed in and like give more power like to these organizations?
Okay, it's a valid point, and I think that even if we get to choose small vendors, these vendors are always at the risk of being bought by the big players to acquire that technology, to acquire that access to the user base. It's interesting what will happen if with AI and the ability to build software faster, personalized, we'll be able to build these environments, not rely essentially on the big players for this type of software solutions, but we'll be able to build them and deploy them within our own systems so that we can preserve what you're saying, the control over our data.
That's actually an interesting point, because now that you mention it, so if we were to build this to ourselves, let's imagine this, right?
Yeah.
We have the technical capabilities, so we can use the hardware like a few generations next type of Apple Glass. So we can build this software, we can use the hardware, and then we can have like that environment for ourselves. Absolutely, absolutely. Then it will be amazing.
Hey, I got you excited. So it's
Yeah.
actually about the right frame, because I really think it's so special that we every day talk to each other and we get work done by this format. And
Yep.
that format is the worst it will ever be. From now on, we will have better tools to make the experience feel even more immersive. The question is, when is it sufficiently immersive? Is there a notion about sufficient immersion? It was so interesting to watch one documentary I've mentioned to you before called Year 1 Billion, which is a BBC, I believe, documentary where it plays out sci-fi scenarios for how the future unfolds to that year 1 billion, where humanity has evolved through different phases. And it starts with a very relatable case where there is a car accident and the kid dies within the car accident. And when the emergency responders arrive at place, they are essentially able to salvage not the body but the memory. And they call the parents, and the parents have to decide whether they want their memory of their kid to be preserved and essentially uploaded into a humanoid. And in the face of you losing your kid forever, uh, and you having the chance to have your kid be there, the consciousness living, but in a new body, I think that this is gonna be an almost impossible choice for any parent to make.
This is raising several interesting questions and topics. First of all, it's the question of immortality, right? But then there's also like the question of consciousness. Whatever, like, let's say that it creates like a perfect copy of the mind and the patterns and all the language and all of these things, right? Is this enough? And this is always like the thing that science and religion have been looking at. Is there a soul? Is there no soul? Would that thing that is just being copied and uploaded into a robot be the same kid? Or it would be simply some kind of replica? Is there really like a divine spark in each one of us and in all of the animals. So this is something that's super interesting, that obviously probably we're not the only ones that are wondering about it. And probably there are people that have written science fiction on this topic. What do you think?
I'm not sure that I have an opinion in that point of my life that is definite. I'm open to the opportunity. I'm open to the opportunity that the soul is an irreplicable element of each and every human, and that you can replicate the consciousness, as you said, the memory, the programming, and you can replicate 90% of their abilities, but or even 99%, but this 1% of unpredictability, the soul, the spark. If it's not there, would it feel real?
Yeah. And
And
also,
it's really interesting.
I feel like this really taps into our personal belief system, because I remember like when I was reading Sapiens and Homo Deus afterwards, personally for me, like it was very depressive material. And later on in real life, I kind of realized why I felt this way, because it sort of like expanded on this idea. It was his own opinion of Yuval Harari, if I'm recreating it good from memory, that humans are merely biological algorithms that are just destined to essentially slaves to their conditioning, and everything is predestined in this way, whatever they're gonna do. And it just left me feel so hollow um, and just deeply, deeply troubled and sad. And I feel personally for me like this is not a way to live, without belief, without the sense of being an agent in my own life, and without believing that I actually have a say in my destiny. Maybe like there are certain things that I'm more inclined to do, but certainly I have things that I am doing in order to change the course.
You need the fundamental belief that you have the power to change things.
Absolutely. And also like to believe in the future that things are going to work out. I feel that no matter what each one of us believes in, operating without belief, you gotta believe in something, man. Believing in my personal agency, in my freedom. There is just nothing that's more powerful than this.
It's interesting that in one of the latest conversations with Tim Ferriss on his podcast, or maybe he was a guest somewhere, he said this thing that he meets a lot of religious people that believe, and he meets a lot of atheists that vividly don't believe. But regardless, it comes down to the belief. Whether you believe in one or the other, you're driven by a belief, whether you believe in yourself. And I think really quickly just believing in yourself gets hard in life. You need that external source that can empower you through you to affect certain aspects of your life. But I think that if you leave it just in believing in your own skills and your own agency, as you said, in your own powers to create your own environment, I think life really quickly gets sour, and it shows you it can feel lonely. And I
Yeah.
think our generation, these of kids of the is coming from a collapse of a system in Eastern Europe, in Bulgaria particularly, collapse of a system. Essentially, we grew up with no beliefs in anything. There wasn't religion to help people strong. That has been continuously for decades erased from the memory of the population. There wasn't belief in each other because that's how the regime was operating, on mistrust. There was no belief in the future because the present was so scary and so worrying. So we grew up quite cynical, and we did grew up in the best possible environment, you and me. We grew up with wonderful families that supported and loved us and taught us to believe in ourselves in the absence of something else. Bigger, better in the world, we could believe in ourselves. And I think this is a great skill to give to your kids. And that's something also that I'm giving to my kids. And I can see how insufficient it is when you face the bigger challenges in the world. You also need this other belief, and I'm practicing
Absolutely.
belief in Santa. I'm practicing belief in many, many things, in overall the good in people. I practice this every day with my kids.
I really see it now as an adult that we need one another, the people in our lives, our friends and family. We need that more than ever because life is hard. Life gets hard sometimes. Sometimes it's very good, but sometimes it gets hard, and it gets hard mostly in our minds. And if we don't have like that support system, I really don't know how some people make it. I'm starting to understand why people commit suicide, because it becomes so impossibly hard and you don't have anybody to talk with, to share that burden, to give you a perspective, like just to listen to you. What other options you have? I heard like this thought some time ago. I don't know if it's completely true, but for the most part it sounds like it, that humans are the only animals that commit suicide because we're capable of creating a projection of the future that is more terrifying than the fear of death in the very present. And I thought about it and I realized, well, I sure as hell have seen myself conjuring up like all sorts of difficult realities in my mind. If I'm capable of doing this, I should be also capable of creating an absolute paradise. And the truth is, for the most time, I mean, like we live in a civil society. Like there is food, there's shelter, like there's all these basic things. So everything that's torturing me are just these thoughts and anxieties about the future, about something that's not real. There's nothing that's preventing me from making like this one conversation right now the most happy moment in my life. It's just in my power to do this. It's not very good for the economy though, because if you get everything you need from your friends, who's gonna buy all those clothes, all those cars? I mean, not only that, but once you buy the car, you need to upgrade it, and
Of course. The
yeah.
shinier, the better.
But
You know, I need to get going, but we need to take round two of this conversation
oh
because,
boy, there's gonna be more rounds
yeah,
than two.
I mean, you got us all the way down. Now you started rebuilding, and I feel like we owe it to people to keep the conversation going to a good end.
There we
So,
go. We started
round
from the
two coming
cables under
soon.
the Atlantic, and then we dig into the system of beliefs.
I'm grateful to the cables and to the people who laid real physical labor for us to have these cables. So,
Thank you,
thank
cables.
you,
Thank you,
people.
people.
Yeah. Okay,
All
talk
right.
to you soon.
Talk
Bye.
to you. Bye, Jan.